mature. Now, most psychiatrists would say that, that if you take away a symptom, that you have to supplement somehow, that they believe that it's not the symptom that's a problem. They believe that there's some kind of an unconscious reasoning process. And I don't believe that at all. I believe that most things work fairly mechanically, that at the bottom line, most of our learnings are put together at the neurochemical level. And understanding how to control our chemistry is important. When people go into states of rage, they do it very, very quickly. It's like people don't suddenly lose their temper over an hour period of time. Somebody walks up and steps on your foot and spills a drink on you, and you sit down at the table, and then slowly over an hour you suddenly go into rage. It doesn't work that way. It happens quickly. But let me ask you to start out this way, is inside your own mind the reasons why you want to stop this behavior. And the unfortunate thing is that the times where this causes you trouble are too far apart. So if there are things like if you wake up in the morning and you have trouble breathing and you can't taste food, and I know you have a pet, and probably your pets always make faces at you when you smoke. I know, and years ago I used to smoke, and if I go and pick up a pack of cigarettes, my dog would start wheezing even before I lit one. It was like, not to mention the fact you have relatives and there's all kinds of places. And then there are people who have gotten over their smoking by becoming phobic, which drives me crazy. It's almost enough to make me want to smoke. I was in an auditorium one time, and there was only 3 of us in the auditorium. And this was before it opened up. And one of the other people that was there picked up a pack of cigarettes, pulled out a cigarette, and somebody 50 yards away began screaming and yelling, going, "I'm allergic to cigarettes, I'll get totally sick," and blah, 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 blah. And the guy put the cigarette back in his packet and walked over and just punched him in the mouth. The guy fell over, and he said, "There's more than one way to get hurt." See, to me, the most important thing is that you end up getting control. The reason I asked you to bring your own cigarettes, I like this country, they get serious. Smoking kills.
Yeah.
There's a good hypnotic subject. It doesn't say who. Try to figure out how to kill somebody with this little box. I've been trying to figure it out all morning. But the truth is that when you have a habit, it doesn't matter whether the habit is biting your nails or whether the habit is smoking or the habit is what happens is that there's a multitude of triggers that after you finish a meal, people have the compulsion. And for a lot of people, it's just that they don't take any time during the course of the day to do anything to give them a feeling of relaxation. And so they develop some mechanism that just notifies them, whether it's gnawing on the end of their fingers, whatever it is, that it becomes a signal for people to learn to take a few moments and relax. Now, I don't know which of these things it is, but what I'd like you to do is to start. Would you put your feet on the floor? Do you mind putting your feet on the floor just for a second here? What I want you to do is I want you to think of 3 or 4 of the absolute worst experiences you've had where you wished you weren't a smoker, where you were embarrassed, like, where it's one of those things where somebody looks at you and goes, "You started smoking again?" It doesn't matter what they are. You don't have to tell us. All I want you to do is just close your eyes and think of a time when you just wished you had the choice to quit. And I want you to take the image that's in your mind and see what you saw when you were there, hear what you heard, and then double the size of the image. Turn the brightness up, turn the volume up, so that the unpleasantness of the situation literally begins to grow. And then jump to the next one, so that you jump to another one quickly. And then make that one even twice as big. And hear the voices of the people there even louder, so that you begin to take that feeling that's inside you and notice where the feeling starts in your body. And notice how it moves through you with that unpleasantness. And then take the feeling and begin to spin it round and round, so that wherever it moves to, move it back to the beginning and begin to spin it around and around and around till it begins to actually feel as uncomfortable as you possibly can. Then jump to the third situation and begin to double that feeling again, and take this until you begin to feel some never again. Because real serious changes in human beings, I learned when I was really young. There was a woman who had been in a terrible situation. Her husband beat her all the time, beat her kids. He was just a cretin. And she kept going back to him. And then suddenly, one day, she said, "That's it." And she never went back to him, and she never had a problem. And I asked her, I said, what happened? And she said, well, it's the straw that broke the camel's back. And if you take this feeling and spin it fast enough, inside of all of us as human beings, there's a threshold you can go through where something inside of you says, enough is enough, where you're really ready to just take the information I can give you, because there's two sides to this. One is the habit, the other is the addiction. And actually, the addiction isn't nearly as hard as the habit, because you're going to have to find a new way to behave in the old situations. But if you take this feeling and spin it harder and spin it faster until something inside you begins to snap, you'll know when that moment is, because suddenly, instead of seeing what you saw in those situations, you're going to take a look at yourself. And when you see yourself in that situation, you're going to begin to feel some never again. Now, when you look at your situation and you see yourself grabbing for that pack of Marlboros after dinner and having to sneak outside and hide in your car and smoke, when you look at that and it seems silly, and you begin to laugh at yourself, this is the first step in real change. A lot of people think that change has to be unpleasant, and those people should go to someone else's seminars, because I don't do it that way. I think that what people have to do is just be fed up with the difficulties they have, and then with an absolute and growing sense of certainty, they need to set out and have a plan about what it takes to change things. Because when you look at yourself, and if you begin to look at all the times and places where you have to engage in really silly things, what happens is you can begin to laugh at the behavior that you were at the mercy of in the past. So that if you look at the situation, they're hiding in the car, smoking a cigarette, out behind the corner of the building like you're in the 7th grade,